So late last night, we got some leaks, some photos starting to make their way through the internet, and we will be taking a look at those right now. But in addition to these photos, we also got our first look at the heat ray variant of Godzilla -1 from SH MonsterArts. So here he is in the same sort of pose that he had from the first figure in the minus color variant. This is them trying to replicate the poster position. He's got the blue eyes, which I think is just the standard now for... well, no, it's not, because the event exclusive didn't have it, but I don't remember his eyes turning blue in the movie, but his mouth here is painted with all the blue. It's the same thing they did with their Godzilla vs. Kong Godzilla. I know this didn't... it was very polarizing for folks. Here, though, I think it's a little bit different because he does, in fact, come with a beam. Okay? I've said this before, I don't even typically use and display beam effects. I just think that if you are going to release a beam variant, it should have the beam. So here's the beam with the blue mouth paint. I think that this makes sense. The beam here, I really like. I actually love the sculpted detail. Wasn't really sure how they were going to do a beam for a version of this figure, if they were going to do it at all, because the beam from the movie is rather unique, rather distinct. But here it is with its shape. Looks great. I really like how this looks, actually. The whole solicitation image, I think, looks fine, but I think if you know anything about that first release, the solicitation photos were not the issue, it was the execution. But if the production photo, or if the production samples actually look like this, I think that they'll be in really good shape. The dorsal fins are confirmed to be made in clear plastic, but they also have translucent paint apps, whatever that means. Here you can see they've even painted onto the back to really give it that glowing effect. I actually really like how this looks. My understanding is that this is just a straight repaint. The spikes have not been redone to be sort of in that extended position, but I guess that makes sense because while they do extend in the movie, they all contract back to their regular position when he fires the beam. So take that for what it's worth. The spines are done in a very similar manner. Now, this figure also comes with the Shinden plane, which I think is a cool addition. Glad to see it. It is very tiny. You can actually see a lot of like the texture of the plastic based on this zooming in. And the same issue I had with the poster color 1954 Godzilla. You can see here that the plane is like so much smaller than the display stand. Like the display stand is going to be like magnitudes larger than the plane, which means that if you're going to display it, for someone like me, I'm not going to see the plane. I'm going to see the stand because the stand is so much larger than the plane. So if you're going to be taking photographs like, you know, Harold and Michael do, then I think you're not going to have a problem with this. But in terms of something that I actively display a figure with, this just doesn't do it for me. I would really prefer they would go back to using the stands that they included with the event exclusive Kong with the heaves, because these supports here are much thinner, and relative to the size of the vehicle, they don't completely just take precedent when you're looking at it. So cool addition. I really wish that they would do a better support system here. So in terms of reissue, you know, like I think we all knew that this was going to be coming. There was the Ichiban show, there was the movie Monster series. I'm just glad that they didn't sculpt it like the movie Monster series did. The neck here, it just looks so like squished. I don't know if squished is, it just looks very distorted. And yeah, this might be what he actually looks like when he's firing the beam in the movie for like the split second that you see him. I just this is not a depiction, a moment that I want on my shelf, and so I'm glad that they didn't make that dramatic change to the way he fires his beam. Now, in terms of release, unfortunately, you are almost certainly not going to get this figure. At least for now. This is going to be a lottery sale for people in Japan, members of Club Tamashi. They're going to do a lottery sale later this month, and then whoever is chosen for that has the distinct privilege of being able to pay 17,600 yen for the figure. This puts it at about 3,000 yen higher than the base figure was. You know, but for me, the Canadian, like that's an extra $30. You know, you do have a couple new pieces in there. The plastic, the translucent plastic, the paint apps, they look great. Is it 3,000 yen better? I'll leave that to you. Something that's interesting to me, though, they're using the name Radiation Heat Ray version when Toho has been pretty good and pretty strict about not including like radioactive elements in the marketing, in the naming of things related to Godzilla for the past couple of years at least. But I guess if you watch the movie, it's very hard. It's very difficult to dissociate the idea that he's radioactive from Godzilla -1. So I'm very interested to see if we will continue to see this terminology used moving forward. So there is no word on a US distribution at this point in time. We don't know anything. I would like to believe that if you're going to go through the trouble of sculpting a new beam, producing a new beam, as well as the Shinden, then you're going to want more people to be able to buy this thing. But I also don't really understand lottery sales in Japan. Like, apparently they're a big thing, and they're totally fine if people don't, if not everyone gets a copy. So I would like to think that this will be brought over. If I had to venture a guess, it'll be sort of like the night color variant of Legendary Godzilla. It'll be brought over as like a Tamashi New York City style exclusive of some sort. At the very least, if it's not a premium Bandai US release. So while I do think it looks cool, I think it's kind of crummy that not everyone's going to be able to get their hands on it. Doesn't feel the greatest. But yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think. Is this something that you would be interested in picking up if it were available over here in North America? Or are you too burned from that first release? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll talk to you again soon.